Addictions touch even the best Christian families right here in San Diego. This is Recovery Radio San Diego with Todd Cunningham of Pacific Hills Treatment Center and Recovery Options Network, along with John and Leslie Savage on KPRZ weekdays at 6:30. Stay with us for real-life stories, help from Christian experts, what works and what doesn't work, and local area resources for you and your family. Welcome to Recovery Radio San Diego.
Good evening. You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is a brand new radio program about addictions and self-destructive behaviors, but God's gift of recovery. Welcome to Recovery Radio. My name is John Savage, and I am a grateful recovering addict. I'm one of 3 members of this new local radio ministry. Recovery Radio is a daily program heard Monday through Friday at this time, and its sole mission is to assist addicts and their families by providing professional resources to get them the help they need to live a happy and productive life. I believe that man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. And to do that, you must be sober. And you must first surrender from your destructive behaviors, seek forgiveness, and acknowledge what Christ did for you on the cross. And that's where my freedom began. Others involved in this radio ministry is my wife, Leslie, who is not here with us this evening, but during my period of drug abuse and now in my recovery has stuck by me, and I'm very thankful to her for that. Our third partner in this program is Todd Cunningham with Recovery Options. Good evening, Todd. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm doing great.
Very good. What do you guys do up at Recovery Options, Todd?
Recovery Options is an organization that takes crisis calls 7 days a week. The people that are calling us are people who have addiction problems or family members that have addiction problems. What we do is we offer free assessments and referrals anywhere in the United States. We take a couple hundred phone calls a day, and we're committed to helping those people, and there's no fees or charges involved in it.
So you're doing free assessments for people, too?
That's correct.
Yeah, because I think we've gotten calls over the last couple of weeks about people questioning the fact of whether they are an addict or not. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And we have licensed counselors, RAS counselors on the phones that are professionals. They've been doing this for a long time, and they can help you sort out through your problem.
How do they get a hold of you?
You call 949-973-9140.
Very good. And so that's pretty much a 24-hour number. I mean,
seven days a week, during till 8 o'clock in the evenings.
Okay, very good. Well, that's a great thing you got going on up there. If you have a note that you'd like to send us about the program, we got an email the other day about somebody asking about how they could get a hold of a particular show that they heard one evening. Send us a note at recoveryradiosd@gmail.com. That's recoveryradiosd@gmail.com. My recovery journey began for me over 3 years ago. It was a time when I finally surrendered, got right with God. For 2 years leading up to that day, I'd been abusing prescription medication, which quickly led to a 6 to 8 per day habit of OxyContin and cocaine. My turning point was an arrest that happened down in Tijuana. And when I completely surrendered and admitted to myself that my life was completely unmanageable and that I was powerless over my own behavior. And at that point, I reached out and called to God for help. And a peace that you have no idea came over me that day that helped me along my recovery process. And so over the last 3 years, I've got a renewed purpose in my life, and this radio ministry is one of those purposes. And so I'm very thankful to be here today, reunited with my family on the radio, talking about addictions. For the last couple of days, we've been talking about the intervention process. Todd, talk to us and introduce our guest this afternoon.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Shane Hankinson with Hankinson Interventions. They've been providing intervention services to Pacific Hills Treatment Centers for, Shane, your dad's been providing services to us for almost 20 years, correct?
That's right, yeah. In fact, the first time I was out at Pacific Hills was back in 1994. And that's when I just first started.
Pacific Hills has turned into be quite the popular Christian drug and alcohol treatment center throughout the United States. Again, Shane and his father provide intervention services for Pacific Hills. They've been doing it for quite a few years now. Shane also owns his own business that is called Clean Play, and I think why don't you expand a little bit on that, Shane?
Yeah. Well, I've spent a long time on the intervention side of things, and doing all these interventions for young people. I do a lot of adolescent interventions. 16, 17-year-olds who have been addicted to drugs for several years. And as I would do this, I would start thinking of my own kids. And so one of the things that I wanted is a way, an easy way, and that was the key, because I don't assume that my children have more integrity to stand up to peer pressure than I did when I was middle school and high school, or even that some adults do. I mean, we see adult sports athletes, and just recently one of the Olympians who had a problem with drugs, and if these are adults that are caving into peer pressure, I don't want to assume that my children are going to have the integrity and the fortitude to withstand the peer pressure that is still prevalent today, just as much as it was when I was in high school, just as much as it was when you guys were in high school. It's always been around. It will always be around. What hasn't been around for me was an easy way to say no, and that's what I wanted to give my kids. And so here was the thing: we know that random drug testing is an incredible deterrence for people to use drugs. And so I wanted to give that to my kids. However, I knew that if I randomly drug tested my kids, I would do it when we got into an argument. I would do it when I didn't like his attitude. I would do it when I didn't like the way he was talking to his mom. I would do it when I saw his grades slipping a little bit. And so it would never be random. It would always be when I was suspicious or when I suspected something. So I wanted something that was outside of the house, that was truly random, a service that would come to us and say, guess what? Your number got pulled. We have to test you randomly. And so and there wasn't anything. And I searched for something like that, and there wasn't anything, and so I created it. And so what Clean Play is it's a truly random program. The child's number is entered into a pool of 100 numbers. Each week, 5 of those 100 are chosen each week. So out of 100 students, 5 are being tested each week. And so you have a 1 in 20 chance of your child being tested each week. And the parents pay a fee for the year. It's like something like $250 for the whole year. And what happens if they come up positive, then we retest, and that's included in the price. And then if that comes up positive, we will do a hair analysis, which normally would be about $150. That's included in the price. And then if a child has a positive after a positive after a positive, we will put them in what we call our accountability program, which is a 3-month deal where we're giving them some life coaching, and we're giving them more frequent testing, and that's all included in the price. And then if they continue to have a problem, we're there to help the parents intervene and decide what the next step is for this child. But here's the thing it provides for the student. They have an easy no to give to their friends or their peer group. When their friends or their peer group ask them to try pot for the first time, they can say, no way, my parents are crazy. They got me involved in this Clean Play program. They signed me up, and these people will come to my house or they'll come to my friend's house, and, I know 7 people in it that have already gotten tested, in the last month, and there's no way I can try it because I'll get busted. And then the other people say, hey, I understand, your parents are whacked out. That's fine. I don't care if they badmouth, our program or their parents. We give them an easy no, a no that's respected. And that's the problem is that kids don't know how to say no. Their no's are not accepted. What's accepted is if I use, I'm going to get busted. I'm going to have consequences. I'm going to get kicked off the football team. I'm going to get kicked off the volleyball team. And so we give kids that assurance that if they try, they are guaranteed that they're going to get caught. And that's deterrence, and that's what prevents people from using in the first place. And so my heart right now is towards prevention. It's about getting my kids through their high school years without even having to go down the road of experimentation. And wouldn't that be a beautiful thing?
Wow, what a great idea. So is Clean Play available anywhere?
Yes, it is. And our website is cleanplay.org. And yeah, I mean, we can set it up anywhere. It's more effective when schools do it, as part of their, like they encourage their players to get involved in it, or encourage the softball team to get involved in it. The more students from one school that are involved in it, the better it is, because what it does is it creates an abstinent community, a sober community, whereby 100 kids in the high school are all being, they're all involved with it, so they're all being tested, and it kind of creates a safe community within the high school. I mean, ideally, we'd like everyone in the high school signed up.
Well, sure.
But if everyone in the high school was signed up, then they probably wouldn't need us anymore.
So they can go to cleanplay.org for more information about the service. So, I mean, but really, so if we just have 2 or 3 people in a local high school here, you can still facilitate that.
Absolutely.
Well, what a great idea.
Yep.
What a great idea. And how long have you been doing that?
We've had that program for about a year and a half, and it's been doing real good. And we're just really encouraged, because what we're seeing is that even though at surface it sounds like, oh man, I don't want to get drug tested, that the kids are relieved inside, because see, I believe that all kids, nobody says, I can't wait to get to middle school because I'm going to start using drugs and become addicted. Mm-hmm. They're scared of it. Mm-hmm. They see themselves in that situation. What am I going to do when all the cool people are asking me to use drugs? I don't have an answer. I go to church. I don't believe that we should do. They just don't have it. Mm-hmm. And the easiest thing, and we all know that middle schoolers tend to do what's the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is to go with the crowd, to go with the flow. And as much as we teach them, just say no, stand on your own, be a unique individual, don't follow the crowd. It's easier said than done.
You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is Recovery Radio for San Diego. On the phone with us this evening is Shane Hankinson, who just informed us about his Clean Play organization. But Shane and his father Keith do interventions throughout the United States and have been doing so going all the way back to your father, 35 years now?
35 years, yeah. It started in 1975.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you've been doing this since 1994.
1994 is when I started. He's been doing intervention and private counseling, and in 1994 he decided that he was getting so busy with intervention that he decided that he was gonna finish up with all of his existing clients and not take on new clients, and then gradually he closed his counseling practice altogether, and since about 1995, he's been solely doing intervention work, and he's on the road. I'd say at least 10 days out of every month.
Mm-hmm. And you?
Not as much. I have younger kids, and so it's. I like to do maybe 1 to 2 interventions per month.
Sure.
More than that, and I start to feel like I'm missing my family.
For the last couple of days, we've been talking about the individual families.
Yeah.
But what if nobody has a family? They don't have anybody to intervene with. I mean, Have you worked with employers before?
We have. In fact, we get those calls every once in a while. An employer who's got one of his employees that is just, it's obvious that he's got a problem, and and I think that the tendency is to stay uninvolved. This isn't my business. This is a personal issue. You know, do what we can to keep your personal issues at home, but it starts to spill over. You know, it starts to spill into the work environment to the point where the employer and the other employees, they just can't ignore it anymore, and it's starting to affect business. Mm-hmm. And you know, obviously the quickest and easiest answer to that problem is, look, you know, straighten up and fly right, or you're fired. But what about the employee that you've grown to care about, and that you know, has even sort of become a part of the corporate family, so to speak? You know, what do you do with that person? And you know, from an employer's point of view, obviously the ideal situation would be to invite the family to do something about it and go alongside the family. But if that's not an option, you know, we've done interventions where the employer and several key employees are all sitting in a room together saying, sometimes to even like a CEO or a higher up in the company, we can't keep doing it like this. We can't keep doing business like this. This is what's happening. It's affecting personal relationships in the company. It's affecting relationships between us and our customers. Everybody's starting to feel the effects of your addiction, and you know, to somebody, especially to somebody that doesn't have a family of their own, that group of people they work with, you know, it becomes their family. Everybody needs somebody. And those are the people closest to that person. Those are the people that they associate with every day. And so never underestimate the importance that you hold in another person's life. And we might think, well, you know, we're just a fellow employee, you know, we're not family. But we can never underestimate the importance that we hold in another person's life. And here's the thing. If somebody is addicted, they're in a life-threatening condition. They have a life-threatening disease. And I think it's our moral imperative, it's our moral obligation to do whatever we can to help somebody who is drowning, to help somebody who is in danger in a life and death situation. And the thing with our culture is that we have excluded ourselves from getting involved in other people's business, and to our detriment, I think. You know, it's none of my business. It's that person's problem. I don't want to interfere in their personal life. But having a disease is not a personal life issue. It's a life and death issue. That person's going to die if they don't get help. And I think that gives the right to everybody to say something, to get involved, to get a group of people together. You know, from a religious standpoint, this is right out of Matthew 18. You know, this is, if your brother is sinning, you go and ask him to sin no more. And if he doesn't listen to you, you bring, another couple of people so that, together you're going to influence this person to change their ways. And if he still doesn't listen, in the Bible it says bring him in front of the church, but I don't think that means bring him up on stage on Sunday morning. I think that means that small community of people, the church, comes around that person and says, look, we're here because we love you, we care about you, you're important to us, but you cannot keep living this way any longer. If you do, you're going to die. Mm. And it says if they still don't listen, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. And what I think that means is you do not continue the fellowship with that person. And that's where we come into bottom lines. What if a person refuses to get help even after the intervention?
Mm. You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is Recovery Radio for San Diego. The voice you hear is Shane Hankinson. He and his father, Keith, do interventions and have been for well over 35 years. Todd, you have a question?
Yeah, I think that on the executive intervention program that we're talking about, I think that the when a boss comes to you and does the intervention can be more effective than if family member coming to you, because it's not so personal, and you're actually looking at somebody outside of your family unit who's confronting you. Is that correct?
Well, usually a person's job is their last bottom. So in other words, an alcoholic can alienate his kids, and he hasn't hit rock bottom. He can lose his wife, and he hasn't hit rock bottom. He can be in terrible health, and he hasn't hit rock bottom. For some people, not until they lose their job do they realize, oh my goodness, I have to quit. And so, oftentimes whenever I hear of an employer getting involved in an intervention, I'm secretly doing cartwheels in my head, because I know that for so many people, especially men, is that's kind of their last frontier. They don't mind if their addiction spills over onto their kids or to their wife or to extended family members, but they try as hard as they can not to let it spill onto their professional lives. And so whenever I hear of an employer getting involved, it's because, it has spilled over, and maybe that the person's not even aware that it has begun to affect their job performance. But oftentimes, an addict will refuse help from his family, refuse help from his parents, refuse help from his kids. But his employer says, look, here's the situation. I love you, I care about you, and I want you around. But bottom line is the bottom line. We can't keep doing business this way. So unless you get help today, I'm afraid, there's not going to be a job waiting for you on Monday.
That is so true.
The way I see it, there's two things that motivate people to change, and it all boils down to two things, and that's pain and desire. There's something over there that you desire so much it motivates you to get up and move towards that, or the situation that you're in is so painful you can't bear it any longer, it motivates you to get up and move to something else. Well, everything that we do kind of boils down to those two things, either pain or desire. That's the only thing that motivates people to change. The problem is that drugs take away a person's motivation. It takes away their desire because they become slave to the drugs. So the only thing they desire is more drugs. They don't care about having a better lifestyle or being healthy or having better communication in the family or being more successful at work. All of their ambition and their desire and their drive is been sucked away by the drug use. So then the only thing that's left over is pain. And the problem is that just like the drugs rob a person of their desire, oftentimes the family is the ones who rob the person of their pain.
You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. The voice you're hearing is that of Shane Hakinson, who is a professional interventionist. You're listening to Recovery Radio on 1210 KPRZ. My name is John Savage, and with me in studio this week is Todd Cunningham. And I think it's appropriate now, because we've been talking about employers, Todd, let's talk about our scholarship program that we're making available to churches and employers.
Yeah. Pacific Hills Treatment Centers up in San Juan Capistrano area has offered a dollar-for-dollar scholarship program to their drug and alcohol treatment center for right now, we'll call it to the employers out there. I think that when an employer kind of steps up and they see an employee who's having some problems with addictions or showing up to work late and they're suspecting that something's going on, that they give us a call. And it's a very caring act for them. I've never seen, anytime I've talked to somebody on the phone, on a daily basis, and the employer steps up and says, hey, I want to help my employee, that is a very caring employer.